Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? How's it going? Uh, well, there's a few things on my mind here. Um, this is kind of really late night. Um, in the Tuesday to Wednesday vicinity. Technically speaking, we're looking at right after midnight, early Wednesday morning, but not really Wednesday morning. It's anyway, you get the idea. Between the 10th and 11th in that ballpark of November. Um, Technically the 11th. Anyway, so um, I got some. I guess I took a nap in the evening, more or less, and then I'm gonna probably be up for a few hours and then go back to bed. That sort of thing. I usually don't do that, um, but um, I should mention in this video at least a little bit of what I've been watching on YouTube, as well as maybe just some certain trains of thought I've had that are a little bit different than I've had recently, I guess you could say. Um, but first, it's true. I've been watching a fair amount of. It's kind of shifted a bit. Yeah, it's been shifting a bit recently. I've been watching a lot of Jordan Peterson. I've almost had like Jordan Peterson overload. Jordan Peterson and Jocko Willink, both those guys. So I've got a fair amount of those guys. I can still handle more. I mean, I like both of them, sure. Um, but there's so much. So they're especially with Jordan Peterson. So anyway. And on top of those guys, yeah, I've been watching a mix of martial arts, I suppose, and a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme stuff. Van Damme, whatever. um, so yeah, there's a comedian, Waking with JP. I've been watching some of his stuff a lot recently, and he's the red-haired dude, or I don't know, I want to get technical, orange, but essentially red-haired guy, wears a kind of has longer hair. Uh, he's a funny guy. And Waking with JP, and here and there are some others, but in particular, and this is kind of getting into more of the train of thought I'm going here. I've had a few different trains of thought with regard to at least a few, with regard to Italian Americans, more Italian American culture, and Italian Americans, and guys I've known, buddies and stuff in the past that friends have had Italian American, as opposed to Italian. I know there's a difference. I always see that. I always see the similarities, but yeah, as we both know, it's the same deal with German Americans and Germans. The Germans will always point out that you're American. And, Germans in particular, like you think the Italians are big on that sort of thing. I know we're Italian, they're Italian American. The Germans are, some of them are real pains in the neck that way. Like, oh come on, dude. Anyway, if you're half German, you're half German, even if you're American. So, anyway, yeah. So, I mean, there's practically no difference sometimes between English American and English if you're um, certain types of. We won't get to that right now. But, so getting back to Italy here, to Italian American. So yeah, I guess I don't know if I mentioned this in another video. Maybe I have. Maybe I haven't. There's a gentleman, and I found out his real name. It's not important what his name is. I think he probably values his privacy somewhat because this is a great guy. This is a good guy. I like him a lot. I mean, I can tell. it's a guy who, when he was younger, had made a video for some educational thing or something about um, regional accents or neighborhood accents, or accents that are very unique in certain places. And in his case, in this gentleman's case, it was in North Boston, so Italian American accent, North Boston. This video, it's going to keep getting a lot of views because we're very familiar with of course the Rocky movies in Philadelphia, and all the New York, New Jersey, the Jersey, right, the Jersey, uh, the Mafia, Italian American culture, right. This is all very familiar stuff. We're maybe not. Much more familiar with New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York City as opposed to Boston. But yeah, Boston. I can't do the Boston accent too well, but it's a unique accent. And if you guys haven't seen this video, just look up um, North End Boston Italian American accent. You'll find it. Um, but apparently, as you could probably guess, there's not too many people at all that are in the North End of Boston that talk like that anymore. So it's lamentable, sure, but I mean, what where I guess my emotions and my heart are going with all this stuff is, and there's so many different avenues you could take here. And at some level, you know, I don't know. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like you see a video like this, and it's really fun. It's really great, and he's a great guy, and he is the sort of guy that's on YouTube that this video is about. It's kind of looking more at the mannerisms and the way that he's talking, but you also get a lot of his personality. And after a bit, you're like, oh man, yeah, this guy reminds me of this other guy I knew, or whatever, or these other guys. And even if they were just kind of just okay, right? They're people. These are people, kids. I guess you could say kids when I was younger, right? These are people at least your age. My case, people my age. I knew when I was younger that I just haven't talked to for a long time. And even if you just got along with them, even if you weren't like the very best of friends, you miss them, and it's weird. It's a weird feeling, It's uh, do I miss them because they're Italian or Italian American, and do I feel like an idiot for feeling this way? And how sincere is this feeling? And like, well, there's something to it, So there's something, right? It's not just this whole Italian thing. There was a time in my life when I don't know. Yes, it was kind of like not fun in some respects being bullied in elementary school, but at the same time it was very um, I don't know. There was something about being a kid that was really nice. Um, yeah, very idyllic, very nice. And I never thought I would get older and want to be a kid again. But sometimes that's not necessarily just when I was a little boy. Yeah, sure, but maybe fewer responsibilities and less expected of me, and more people were more forgiving to you, I guess. That was a great time. And I guess, the thing is in this video is that, and out of respect to this gentleman, I don't want to say his name. I'm supposed to get pestered enough, I might say mention it, but I will be keeping him anonymous and stuff. But this gentleman was, because you can, it's obvious Italian, right? Dark hair. He has a certain kind of skinny nose, and he's got the '80s headband, red headband. He's got got the look, right, but the '80s look. Anyway, but he has this personality where he just draws people toward him. Very, very friendly, very, very kind person, big-hearted, easy to talk to. So everybody just loves him. And part of my train of thought was, I've never really been that way. It's a yes and a no. I have this empathetic side to me, and I can be very kind. I'm very, very kind that way, but I'm not outgoing like he is. And it's always something I wouldn't say I've envied. I don't necessarily envy people like that, but another way I do, and a way I don't. But I definitely admire. I definitely admire people that are like that. That's the best way of putting it. And anyway, getting into my own life a little bit here, and there's so many different avenues to take talking about, Italian American culture. Because I know we're not necessarily talking about Italy. It's more Italian American culture, and I mentioned, Sly Stallone, and actually Stallone is, as you might know, part Basque, part French, and Italian and German or something like that. He's got a few different things going on there, but definitely Basque. So, Sylvester's not exactly Italian, but you could pass for Italian, definitely. And he's very, very aware of all this stuff, but, anyway, there's a Philadelphia culture, a Philadelphia Jersey, you know, that we're all very familiar with in New York and just the East Coast in general. Um, and, I have, for instance, just regarding Italian Americans, I mean, I've known there are people, members of my church, that are Italian American, whether full blooded or partially Italian, and awesome people and very generous, big hearted. I had a roommate at Central Washington University who was half Italian by ancestry. Um, I've had multiple music students, many, many that are either part Italian or full 100% Italian or Italian American. Uh, my brother, closer to my age, younger brother, number two in my family, went on a church mission to Italy. But this is getting back to Italy, right? He went to Venice, Padua, that whole area. I mean, and I had a cousin, by the way, who went to Rome, Italy, uh, church mission. But uh, I mentioned it, like, I'm talking like dozens and dozens of music students that are Italian American, and also, people I knew growing up, friends that were either full-blooded Italian or part Italian, German Italian, whatever it was. Uh, Other people I knew in college, people at BYU. Yep. Uh, and aside from, it's funny because, yes, it's true. The reason why I think in my own mind, I often jump to, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Mafia type trains of thought with Italian American culture is because it's such uh, a flashy uh, kind of thing. It jumps out at you a little bit. And it's Sicily, right? It's Italian American from Sicily. It's different than, I understand it's different than, you know, Italy. And then Italy itself is a little bit different from north to south, of course, So I haven't always realized this when I was younger, but the older you get, the more you see this. But of course, northern Italy is quite a bit like France and Austria and Switzerland and Germany and stuff, and other such places. Slovenia, you know, definitely. And Central Italy is still very European. I mentioned it, not just complexion wise, but um, Yeah, and, and you get to southernmost Italy. I know it's more like Greece or uh, it's more Mediterranean, right? And yeah, no, I see the different. I understand in general, the differences in culture somewhat. Um, but I think far more than my own psyche, I think, not only Italians, but Italian Americans probably understand all these subtleties quite a bit more than I do. And um, I think it's, very interesting. Um, and of course, many other actors, like Ralph Macchio and Karate Kid, sure. And, oh, I don't know. The big ones, the big names, of course, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and I don't know. Well, but we know about Martin Scorsese, and DiCaprio has got part Italian, part German. You can see the German in Leonardo, but uh, and there's other guys that sure. Um, but I guess some part of me, I guess, would have liked to. It's kind of like it's also okay. My train of thought is also like take the Happy Days TV show. We all kind of like a person in our lives that we've known that's kind of like the Fonz, the Fonzarelli. I think we often like people like that. People that are fairly straight arrow. I mean, they're essentially good people, more or less, but maybe a little bit rough, but not necessarily. They're definitely not. They're not scum. They're not. They're not actually bad people. But they are great people to go to when we're having trouble with a bully, or people just to talk to about whatever problems, issues we have. You often think this is kind of like an older brother, or this is like an uncle or your dad or something, or whatever. Sure, but it's so great to know someone like that, and friends for life kind of thing. And I'm asking myself, do I know anybody that's like the Fonz? Have I known anybody like the Fonz? If I was Richie Cunningham, it was always very easy for me to put myself in Richie's shoes. Even though I don't have red hair, blonde hair, his personality on the TV show was not all that much different from mine. Not all that much different. Different, yes. Different, definitely, but not all that much different. Ron Howard, right? And the way the character he's played, but also in real life, he's a very creative guy. Um, have I known anybody like that? And and do I miss uh, do I miss people like that I've known, and whether or not they're Italian, American or not, whatever. And um, um, I don't know about there's a whole train of thought, right? Well, when I was younger, there were some guys. Uh, I greatly admired the teenagers when I was a boy. The teens in my home ward in church, home congregation, right, in LDS church, and I just almost worshipped the ground they walked on. I looked up to them so much, all those guys, and then many other guys as well in my neighborhood growing up. I just, unless I knew that they were really cruel. There were very few people like that that were older than me. I just thought the world of them. I remember all those guys. So on some level, this is, I've talked about Italian American culture, but on another level, it's just like the guys you knew. And I'm thinking more guys, not so much the women, right? I still admired them as well, but especially the guys when I was a boy. I'm looking more at the guys that were a little bit older than me, that were they were in the teen years when I was a boy. I don't know how much they are sometimes aware of how much I looked up to them as a boy. I really looked up to them a lot. I mean, a lot. I mean, I can't tell you guys how much I look up to them. But some of that's just, I guess, the way we are when we're boys, and we know teenagers that we think are just amazing, and it's probably a good thing that the teens that are still very much the same way now. I don't know. But it's probably a good thing that teens aren't aware of how much these little boys are looking up to them, because if they were aware of that, it might be a little bit overwhelming for them, right? Like, man, I'm just a whatever. But yeah, I mean, I suppose that have had my Fonzies. But I was the oldest. See, in my family, I was the oldest. So in a way, um, I guess I was like the Fonz in my family, but I didn't have a Fonzie type personality. But I don't know. Since I was the oldest, I always looked to other people to be kind of like older brother to me. So I never had an older brother, but I had a cousin who was kind of like that. Yeah. He died of cancer when I was younger. It was my teens. And I had an next door neighbor who's my age. Big family. One of their boys was my age. Another two older brothers of his brothers that were older than me. One of them I just thought the world of. The other one that was the oldest, I was like, oh, he's yeah, But I wasn't maybe as close to him. But and then they had an older sister, and she was very awesome too. She was very easy to talk to. But in some, yeah, yeah. But that was like my life growing up, and so much of other people I knew, in my home ward, and these are all my memories from all my hearts, kind of thing. But yeah, when I see these videos, like for instance, I got this video on YouTube, but just some of these thoughts and memories just come racing back. It seems so silly because, you know, um, what is this, like nostalgia? I'm asking myself, how sincere are these feelings? Um, how much did I actually like whoever? Is the interest just Italian American culture in general, or is it I actually miss these people? I'm asking myself, am I a schmo here, or am I, what's really going on here? And I guess maybe what I miss is, and this is when I was a little boy. I remember this still. Also, I remember a time when you could just play in your neighborhood, and there are neighborhoods. Well, a lot of neighborhoods are still like this. But you can just go to your neighbor's house and you say, is so and so home? And most of the time, this is still the case, but I know that things are a little bit different now, I suppose. But unfortunately, I can't say for the better. I think for the worse. But I think people were a bit friendlier in the '80s and '90s. We can say, is so and so home, and you can just go spend time with friends if you want, and go hang out and do stuff and whatever. And I remember that time, in the '80s when it was like that, and just go out and play and come home for dinner. Like, Mom, like, where are you at? Where were you? Just too late. And some part of me, would have wanted to spend more time with more kids I knew when I was younger. I was always so shy. I was one of the shyest kids in my school. And, I need to, this is good stuff to think about and realize, because um, it's true, by the time I got to high school, the the people that were a little bit less pleasant to be around were definitely even less pleasant. Some of them. I don't really hold it against them personally. Now it's just it seemed like the people that I liked more, I never really just talked to very much, or increasingly less and less when I got into my teens. Or to some extent, that was the case. I just I've always been so introverted that way, and oh yeah, and there's a side to this that I need to. Yeah, at some point, I want to go to a high school reunion, but I know who I'd want to talk to again, and I know what I want to do before then, you know, and hopefully strengthen any relationships I ever had with anybody. And again, I started out thinking about Italian American culture. It's really much broader than that, much broader. But it's like, yeah, it's so interesting because so much of so much of my trains of thought are about the movies, right, and mafia culture. And another train of thought is people I've known. At first, it's like, oh, all the guys I knew that had some Italian background. But then overall, it's like, no, it's just Americans, just people I knew, my peers when I was growing up, friends and everyone else. And someone would say, oh, it's just because, we're all alike. We're all, whether that we're American or European or African or whatever, we're all human. We're all, I'm like, yeah, I know. It's kind of like one thing leads to another in my mind. But I just can't get over the fact that I really, really miss things being different, I guess you could say. Seemed like when I was younger, it was easier to meet people. Maybe it's still easy now. As an adult, you see a lot more, and you have a lot, more shrewdness about people in a way. But it can also mean that you're more guarded. I've never been a guarded person. I just am not especially outgoing. I don't know. I just sometimes I feel terrible about how reserved I've been. I don't know. I feel like I need to be more out there in a way. Not sure how to describe it. I don't know. But again, I'm going to keep this gentleman's name anonymous, and if you guys want to look up the video, it's really cool. It's, you know, um, I think a lot of us miss, by the way, or we feel bad when we have these neighborhoods that change. I call it gentrification, or there's all these terms that I'm not always as 100% aware of what they mean, but I have a general idea. And by a different demographic or a different ethnicity, talking about with Afro American uh, neighborhoods and movies, like, you have, oh, what's that movie with Lawrence Fishburne and Ice Cube? Oh, I don't know. Um, and Cuba Gooding Jr. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But Lawrence Fishburne breaks it down. He's just like, yeah, there's a. No, I can't do justice to it. But I think if you guys look up those three actors, you'll get the movie I'm talking about. But yeah, it's like, it's really sad to see neighborhoods change. And, we might think to ourselves, oh man, I would have loved to have grown up in that neighborhood. I would love to have known those people and just, to be valued. When you see those tight knit relationships, you see that warmth. What comes to my mind is, well, I have my family, I'm close to my family, I have my church, I have my friends. I don't always have a whole bunch of them, but I am close. There's people I'm close to, but maybe you feel like, oh, maybe we could be more warm-hearted, we could be more outgoing, we could be more asking them about their lives, we could be more part of it, right? And this is a good thing. This is a good thing to think about. But it's probably better to think I can be more this way. I should be more this way rather than something more comparative, right? Right. And the funny thing is, but I know, well, I don't know. It's all kinds. Well, I don't know. It's that outgoing thing that is a general. We're talking about these generalities, right? There's nothing necessarily specifically cultural about them, but you see that a little bit, that friendliness or that outgoing thing with Italian American culture in general, the East Coast especially. More some than others. I know that some folks are very different, of course. Sicilian or whatever, but you see a lot of that. And by the same token, I know Italian Americans might, be more wanting of these other qualities that other types of folks have. But I mean, the train of thought is that on some level, each of us might ask ourselves again, how can I get whatever it is about this whatever the way this guy is. How can I be more like this, or um, how can I feel more happy that way socially? How can things be more like they were when I was younger, no matter what our state in life is? I think maybe the solution to that is to um, I think that people probably don't like it when they're around very stressed out people. I think in general, uh, especially serious. Maybe I wondered at times I've pushed people away because I've been so serious or stressed out about things, or so intense. Beethoven was that way, by the way. Ludwig van Beethoven, he was always writing music, and he was not always a very pleasant person to be around, but at the same time, he could be extremely awesome to be around. It's just a question of what he was doing. So I see a lot of myself in Beethoven, but I've wondered, would I have been more likable if I had been more uh, just really calm and even keel all the time, less bothered by things? You know, there's that quality of that some people have where you can. It seems like they're either like thicker skinned, or they don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah, man, I I really value that, not sweating the small stuff. I do tend to sweat small. As a personality thing, I tend to sweat the small stuff. But it's. I guess this is good food for me to think about. This is good thoughts for me to think about. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. Um, Hopefully, we have some people we know in our lives are kind of like the Fonzarelli. And you guys, by all means, check out that video. It's an awesome video. And so again, on some level, when it approaches these cultural things, we start out with a certain train of thought, and it often breaks into the social and emotional, and not really, it really should, because that's the stuff that really matters. And we realize,